Hey everybody, good energy to you guys. So this is just a little video about the gun situation here, and to me it's a tricky situation, and I think that the only good way out of it, again, goes back to the idea that I've been talking about for a while, is us detaching. If you got to think, if all over the country, if elements of people that are like-minded started to band together and literally relocate to more remote parts of the country and start building their own cities and towns and villages, and policing themselves, teaching the kids themselves, like we got to get back to doing shit on our own, is the solution to all the problems. Because when you think about it, like, okay, the guns, yeah, it's an issue that we have kids out there, because an 18-year-old is not a full-grown adult in my opinion. Those are still kids. But unfortunately, we have kids going around committing mass murders, and they're able to buy firearms. So that puts all other children and all other humans and life forms at risk. However, this is why it says, "Come out of her, my people." Like, we're living in some really dire times, and there's a lot of evilness that is here in America and in the rest of the world right now. And a lot of people are under the influence of this evilness, and it causes them to commit horrible crimes like the one we just witnessed. But just thinking hypothetically, if a number of like-minded people that were like, hey man, we don't agree with the political system, we don't agree with the educational system, we don't agree with the medical system, we don't agree with just about everything that is spewed forth from the people in power, come to that acknowledgement and also come up with some type of a simple way of living and governing themselves that they can apply and show to the rest of the world. If they're able to do that and relocate out of these cities, then they would be away from all of these crazy people. They'd be developing their own sanctuary, because I think this craziness is only going to continue to escalate. So it's like, we can choose to sit here and stay in these major cities and wait for more of these atrocities to happen, or we can acknowledge that they are happening, and the solution isn't as simple as just taking the guns away. There's other ways people will find to kill people. I'm not saying that, of course, if you take all the guns away, which I don't think it's ever going to happen, because there's 400 million guns in America, and like most of the people that I know that have firearms, they're not going to be wanting to give their firearms away. A lot of them would probably go down shooting if it came down to that. So I don't think it's ever really going to happen anyways. And I don't think it should either, because America is only where it's at, as far as being able to push away and detach from Britain, because we had firearms. Like, we were a bunch of farmers living with the land for the most part, but once the British came over here and continued to try to, enforce their tyrannical system of doing things, we was like, enough is enough. So we picked up, and we put down the pitchfork temporarily. We picked up muskets, or we used whatever weapons we could to fight off the British. And if we didn't have that ability to carry firearms, we wouldn't have been able to be successful in fighting the British. So it's really hard for me to sit back and say it's okay for them to take firearms away, when it was firearms in the first place that, allowed us to prevail against evilness. Now I don't own any firearms myself. I believe more in swords and sticks and martial arts, if you're going to get into combat. I've just never been one to like firearms. That's just my own personal preference. I think it takes away some of the honor and just the realness of the situation when you're able to shoot people at 1,000 yards or 100 yards, as opposed to seeing your enemy face to face in the flesh. There's just it's a less intimate moment. And I think because it's less intimate, it's easier for people to kill others when they're, like I said, 1,000 feet away or miles away. Because now you got jets and drones that all you got to do is push a button, just like in a video game, and you can kill whole villages of people. But imagine if you were right there in the near proximity of that village. Like, you're not going to feel the same way about killing these people as if somebody who's sitting in the middle of some type of a console and operating a remote control and being told to shoot these and kill these people. In my opinion, I don't think it would be the same. I don't think it would go down the same way. I'm not saying it still wouldn't happen, but I think that the emotional effect it would have on the person committing these actions would be more profound. So, but anyway, back to the solution. The solution, again, to me, is not taking away the guns, but rather relocating the people with guns whom are like-minded and good-hearted in nature, and, you know, redistributing their wealth, their resources, their work, their efforts into a remote area away from these major cities. Like, we really got to move away from these major cities and start creating our own communities based on our own good teachings and lessons and ways of policing. It's that simple. You know, if you start doing that, not only are you going to be able to start teaching children different information that's good for them, but you're also going to be able to know who's around you. Like, you get to know the people in your community a little bit better. You know, if there are people whom are, you know, seem to be more prone towards the negative, more evil side of things, you know, you need to fucking, you know, be aware of that and keep eyes on that, keep surveillance on that, because we are living in times when, you know, it just, you know, that a person could be on the edge of doing something, and as soon as they get triggered to a high enough extent, that trigger is going to go off and they're going to explode and do something to hurt people. So I do think it's important to keep a good eye on people that we think might be capable of committing these type of crimes, but also, you know, make sure that we're in a place that's, you know, far enough away so it's going to give you guys more security than as you sending your kids to a public school while you go off to work in the middle of a major city with, you know, like here in Portland, like it's a major city. We have over 1 million people if you count all the different, you know, aspects of this area of Portland. There's a lot of people here. And you just got to think, every day you're sending your kid to school, you know, in an area with a whole bunch of people that you don't know. You have no idea what's going on in their family. You have no idea what's going on in the minds of these children. You have no idea what they're being taught from their parents. You know, I haven't even gone into the curriculum that the schools are teaching the children these days, but I've heard that it isn't the best. Like, I've heard that they're pushing the transgender thing, you know, and that in itself is extremely dangerous, because you're playing with hormones at a time when children are in the middle of going through changes in their body, hormonal changes. And, you know, you have men who, you know, you're telling them it's okay to be females, and females that it's okay to be males, and there's a lot of confusion that can happen when these type of things are being taught. In my opinion, that I could see how it could be very confusing. And then it's also just like, because we're so suggestive as children and younger adults, you know, if we're living in a society that is, you know, talking about all these transgender things, and you're hearing about all these transgender things in movies and music, and it's being like okay, and it's pushed as something that's like, hey, it's okay, it's just, you know, if you don't feel like you're a dude, then you're not a dude. Like, kids are very susceptible. Like, they'll go along with that just if a part of them feels like it's okay, and you don't know how much that part of them that feels like it was okay was pushed there through peer pressure or through the pressure of the environment. Again, I wasn't really trying to talk about the transgender issues or anything like that. If people want to change their genders, that's their own choice. I'm not going to sit here and demonize them for it. I don't think it's the healthiest thing to do, because I think God created us to be the way that we are. So if he created you to be a man, you should be a man. You know, if you're a woman, you should be a woman. But I believe in unconditional love supersedes all. So I'm not going to sit back and judge these people for the things that they're doing. However, I am going to speak up on the possible dangers of, you know, those type of actions, you know, and then also try to provide suggestions and solutions to humanity so that we don't have to continue seeing these horrible atrocities. So yeah, I mean, to me, it solves so many problems. Not only does it help keep our children safe, but we would start being able to develop our own infrastructure. You got to start small. So like, you can start just growing your own crops, developing your own little sharecropping community, you know, develop your own policing system. Like, nobody tells us we can't police ourselves. Like, you can start, you know, officially building your own militias to make yourself able to defend yourselves, you know, and you could have a whole school system based on, you know, volunteers of people that want to share good knowledge with our children and have them teach the children instead of sending them to public schools. Not only are you going to get information that you may not agree with at these public schools, but you're also just sending them to a place that's dangerous. Like, I would have serious issues sending my kids to public schools after what just happened, especially with all the turmoil going on in the world today. Like, it's just playing with fire. Like, when's the next time? When's it going to happen again? You know, is really the question. It's not, is it going to happen again? It's when is it going to happen again, and how bad is it going to be? So it's like, we've already seen that there's a pattern, that this is a trend that continues to happen. So it's like, why would I, in my right mind, continue to send my kids to a place that I know is not safe, one way or another? Even if they take the guns away, there's still other ways to kill people. Like, people can get their own guns on the black market. You can create bombs. You can poison people. There's always knives. Like, there's a lot of different ways to kill people. So taking the guns away, not only do I not agree with it from the principle of just looking into the past and the history, like it was our guns that gave us our freedom from these tyrannical people, I also don't think it's going to solve the actual problem. You know, it's not the guns that are really killing the people. It's the people behind the guns with the fucked up perception that are killing people. So we need a way to change the perception of humanity. We need different teachings. Like, a lot of what's happening with our children has to go back to the schools and the way the parents are raising the children. We've got to look at those factors, because the kids are so young, they're so susceptible, they're like sponges, they absorb stuff, you know, and if something just feels good, they might just go along with it even though it's not good because it feels good. They're mixed up. They need people with true wisdom and good hearts and good intentions to help lead them to a healthier way of living. And I don't think we're just finding less and less and less and less of that each and every day in these major cities. So again, it goes back to, you know, and if you lived out in the country more, you'd have more room, you'd have more space to grow your own crops. You know, you'd have more space for people to chill out. Like, a lot of these people that go around killing, like, they're just so overwhelmed with stress and negativity, and they're feeling pressured in so many different ways, they explode. You know, but if you're out in nature, if you're surrounded by beauty, like, you'd be surprised, like, that has an effect on your demeanor. That has an effect on the psyche. It has an effect on the spirit. It'll help calm people down. It'll help bring people down to a healthier way of living and feeling, because they're going to be surrounded by life and beauty instead of around this concrete jungle with all these wicked attachments to it. So again, you know, I think that the solution that we should all start focusing on, it's not just one solution, it's really a solution for everything, is like-minded people coming together in acknowledgement and agreement with how fucked up things are and good ways to help counter that, and relocating to more remote areas of America or wherever they are, and building their own communities and being their own police officers, being their own teachers, being their own physicians. Like, we can do all these things ourselves. We don't need a government to do these things, especially when this government is proven to be corrupt. So, all right, I love you guys. Hope you have a good day. Bye.